Welcome to this week's episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Grab a seat at the table as Masters rowing coaches Marlene Royal and Rebecca Caro share their biggest secrets on how to unleash your hidden potential and plot a new course for real results on the water and off. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today we are finishing our skills and drills exercises series with 9 essential drills that I believe form the core of everything you need to know to upskill yourself into a better sculler and rower. Before I go into the detail of each one, let's talk about the skills ladder, because this is an overriding concept which governs how you progress in your own rowing and sculling. When we start, nobody can row or scull. It is the most wonderful sport because it's a great leveler. You might be a really skillful athlete in other sports, but when it comes to us, we know full well that basically nobody can just get in a boat and row. And that's really quite a nice thing. Thinking about how you progress, you begin as a beginner. Obviously, you move to maybe an intermediate stage and then on to advanced skills. And in this series of drills that I've been running through, quite often I've talked about advanced or more challenging variants of the drills that we've been discussing and analysing. And the point here is that because the rowing and sculling stroke is cyclical, you can always go back to the basics and learn again and practice again the things that you've learned when you were first on the water. The key is to execute it to a really high standard. And that fundamentally is the main difference between advanced and skilled athletes than beginners, is their ability to execute skillfully and with increasing accuracy, particularly using the fine motor skills that affect your handle heights, your balance, how you move through the recovery and the power phase. Now, with each of our skills, these progressions can really be checked and tested. And in the Faster Masters Rowing website, one of the things we sell is an advisory group for coaches called the Coach Mastermind. You don't have to be a coach to join, but it does help. Even if you coach from inside the boat as an athlete, you will love joining this group, because the point of the group is a monthly call where we get on and discuss all sorts of different things, and people who are in it say how useful it is. They are, many of them, extremely experienced coaches, and even they come away saying there was really useful stuff that they've learned in the call that they're then taking into their coaching practice, into how they deal with the club committee or board and their general day-to-day work. When you join the Coach Mastermind, you get our free joining gift, the 3 skills checklists for beginner, intermediate, and advanced that you can use then to guide how you coach. So say you've got a crew of 4 people, 2 intermediates, 2 advanced, you can do the same drill with each of them, but you can move the more experienced people on a little bit further than perhaps you'd move the people who are less experienced. And because you've got the checklist, it helps you to decide what to teach next. Because that's often the challenge with more experienced people, particularly if you think you're a slightly less experienced coach. You may not be able to really see what the next thing is you should teach. But if you set people a skill drill, you can see if they can do it or not. And if they can't do it, then that gives you a clue as to what you could or should be teaching them. Now, going on to the 9 essential drills. With each of these, as with our previous drill podcasts, we talk about how to use the drill, how to teach the drill, and errors to watch out for. And we're going to be going through these all one at a time, but I'm not going to cycle through all of those different things individually because I think it would take a little bit of a long time. So let's kick off with the first of our 9 essential drills. It's legs only rowing. This takes you from starting at the catch, putting the blade in the water, and starting to make the power phase only using your legs. You extract the blade with straight arms, and then you return to the catch. So ideally, this is a drill done initially with half the crew setting the boat level for you. It's important to watch out for people keeping their shoulders forward of the hips and not swinging back. That's quite challenging to do if you're not used to it. And you, of course, also keep your arms straight throughout. What's it good for? Teaching the timing of the placement of the oar with the seat change of direction. It's good for teaching the grip on the front end and the initiation of the drive sequence only using your legs. And if you want a more advanced version of this, try doing it square blades. Interestingly, the advanced version is also the beginner version, which you do when someone else is sitting the boat for you, because you want to take, it's a very short stroke, and you want to take the squaring and feathering action out of the number of different movements that the athlete has to do during this drill. So if you can do it square blades in your single on your own, that's great. If you're not skilled enough to do it in crew boats, and you can do it feathered blades with everybody rowing simultaneously, or you can do it with people sitting the boat level for you while you practice it on your own. Legs and backs only rowing is a nice progression from legs only. So you start to row, leaving your arms straight. You drive with the legs, swing your back, and you can do this sweep. You can do it sculling. The key here is to teach the transition from the leg drive to adding the backswing, and the amount of overlap between the two that you choose to incorporate is a stylistic choice. But as with a lot of exercises, you can do an exaggeration drill just as part of the exercise, which you wouldn't do in normal rowing. So one thing you can do with this one is to complete your leg drive before you do the backswing. So you get your legs fully straight before the back swings, and use that as part of the sequence of learning and acquiring the skill. One of the key bits of this drill is it helps you to add muscles, to recruit other muscle groups into your stroke power. And that's a really, really good benefit of using both the legs and the back, but also working them somewhat separately. A variant that you can do of this drill is to combine it with the legs only drill. So you do 10 strokes legs only, 10 strokes legs and back, and then maybe 10 strokes of normal rowing with your arms. And of course, as I've said before, you can do this square blades or you can do it feathered blades. It's really good for teaching how to deliver power and how to time the front end. Our third drill is wide grip. In sweep, you slide your inside hand off the handle down onto the fat bit of the main shaft of the blade. In sculling, you slide your hands down so that your little finger is either right on the end of the coloured rubber grip, or you can make it even wider and have your little fingers on the edge of the taper where the oar widens to go into the main shaft. Wide grip is a really good way of increasing the load in the sculling stroke. And if you've got a higher gearing or an increased load, you can't move so quickly. So it helps the athlete to feel when the blades are in the water, to feel the grip, the connection. And you can't move quickly against it because the load is heavy. So it helps them to notice when the oars are in the water, when they can feel the load, and when they can drive the legs off of that placement. It's a slightly different benefit in the sweep stroke. In the sweep stroke, it's more often used to help teach the different movements of the outside hand and the inside hand, to make sure that the outside hand is lifting the blade into the water, not the inside hand. By making the inside hand move closer to the fulcrum, which is the oar lock, you find that it has far less control over the oar handle and what you're doing. So a variant of our wide grip exercise is to progressively move the hands back to the normal grips. In sculling, you might move from the taper part near the main shaft to your hand on the end of the rubber grip with your little finger just on the end, and then move progressively back to having your thumb on the outside end of the grip in a normal grip. In sweep, you might choose to have your hand move from, as I said, on the main shaft to where the taper is, and then back to its normal position. Our fourth one is inside arm only rowing. And of course, this is a sweep only drill. Really useful because it's quite an equivalent of the wide grip in sculling. It loads you up. You are deficient in power because you've got one hand off the blade. And you can use this to time the feathering action, but also to get the feeling of how much work you can put on with your legs as you start the power phase, because again, it's going to load you up. You won't be able to work particularly hard against it because you've only got one arm holding the oar. Now, a variant of this is to row with your outside hand as well, but instead take your inside arm off the oar handle and put it on your backstay so that it is behind you. So your inside hand will be halfway up the backstay between where it anchors on the side of the boat and where it anchors at the top of the oar lock. And this helps you to learn how to rotate around your gait. It's a really, because you're holding on outside the edge of the boat, it allows people to feel the shoulder rotation, and your outside arm can then usually move further around the arc, so that you actually get a placement at the catch, which is actually a little more extreme than your normal rowing. Our fifth drill is called quarter slide push. And this is the drill which is the very, very first beginning of the power phase. So if you're doing the reverse pick drill, which was the first of these podcasts that I did, it's the first bit of the reverse pick drill. You move from full compression at the catch with the blade in the water, and you push your legs back until you get to 3/4 slide. So using 1/4, the first quarter of the slide. You then take the blade out of the water and return to the catch. So it's a really super short stroke. This is a very challenging drill, and it helps you to work out how to grip and engage the water before you drive with your legs. It helps you to time the catch placement. One of the ways that you can do that is to do this drill very slowly, but with your inside arm holding the back of your seat. So you're actually just using your outside hand to hold the blade. And the inside hand, you can feel the wheels of your seat moving. So as you roll forwards, obviously the seat stops when you change direction. So with your hand on the back of the seat, you can actually feel that stop position. And then, of course, the seat then starts to roll in the opposite direction through the power phase. This helps the athlete to notice where the change of direction in the seat is and to use that as a timing point for placing the oar into the water, so that the oar has to already be under the water when the seat changes direction. You might want to start practicing this full slide rather than just quarter slide push. But once they've got the feeling of noticing the seat underneath the move, then you can use that as a timing point for your quarter slide push drill. Now, if you're an advanced single sculler. You can do this in your single square blades. It's a really, really good skill to grip and move, and also obviously to time your catch placement so that your handles are moving faster than your seat because they've got a greater distance to cover. They've got to move up the slide and then get high enough so that the blade goes under the water before the seat changes direction. That's definitely an advanced drill for moving up the skills ladder. Our sixth drill is a great one for no handle rowing, which is for the indoor rowing machine. It works best on dynamic rowing machines, so Concept 2 on slides or the RP3. And you sit on the seat with your feet in and you let put the handle down and leave your hands hanging by your side. Some people like to have the hands crossed over their chest, and you just get the athlete to roll up to full compression and then drive their legs to push through the power phase and then back up to the catch, backwards and forwards. And the motion of the dynamic machine and the fact that you are moving the flywheel as well as obviously your seat really helps the athlete to get the sort of 2-to-1 ratio rhythm of the rowing stroke. It's extremely hard to do this if you in a sort of 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have an athlete who really rushes their slide, this is a great way to teach them how the rowing stroke should feel when they're just moving in time with the machine, in time with the boat. So get them to row 10 strokes with their arms by the side, just getting the leg drive and the recovery, and then get them to pick up the handle and not to work hard, but just to get the leg drive and recovery exactly the same as it was with just them holding their handle. Don't get them to swing or draw their arms. Just keep the legs the same and then later introduce the arms. And this is a great way of helping them to feel that ratio. Now, you can also do it in a boat, in a crew boat. You probably want half the crew sitting the boat. The ones that are going to do the drill, you want them to push their handles away so that the oars are parallel with the side of the boat. And you just get them, again, hands by your side or crossed over your chest, rolling forwards to the catch, and then driving with the legs. Roll forward and drive. And get them to do this so that they fall into time with each other, so that the roll and drive is accurate. And it's, again, a really good way of getting people to notice how the leg drive initiates the power and actually how long it takes to come back up the recovery after they've done a power phase. I will say, when you do it in a crew boat, the rhythm you achieve isn't perfect because you're carrying the dead weight of half the crew who are sitting idle, but it is quite a neat drill to practice. Now, a sculling drill, the left hand lead exercise. This is to help get the handle sequence off the finish. When you're just extracting the oar from the water, you want to get to the crossover point with your hands nested, left hand above and in front of the right hand. And by exaggerating the left hand as the oars come out of the water, you can help an athlete understand how much faster that hand needs to move compared with the right hand so that you get to the correct position at the crossover. The way to do the drill is to take the oars out of the water and feather them and hold your right hand handle against your chest on your lower ribs at the finish position, and hold it there while you straighten the left arm, then straighten the right arm so that it nests in behind and below the left hand, then rock forwards, roll up the slide, and take a normal stroke, so that it goes a little bit like this. I'm going to stand up so that you can see it. So you get to the finish, you go left, right, rock and roll. Finish, left hand straight, then the right hand straight, rock forwards and roll. I have found when teaching this that people find it quite hard to hold their right hand back. And one way to help them notice this is to get them to say the words 1 and 2 as they do the drill. So 1 is when you straighten your left hand, 2 is when you straighten your right hand. The progression on this drill is to do 10 strokes of an exaggerated left hand lead, then 10 strokes normal sculling. One thing you could do is do an intermediate 10 where you gradually blend from an exaggerated left hand lead into a smoother, an increasingly reduced weight for your right hand. So keep the left hand moving away and then just let the right hand follow increasingly closer. Do remember that the correct body posture for this drill is leaning back in your finished position. You don't want to allow any body movement at all while people do this drill, because again, the whole point of the drill is to get your arms straight and nested in the correct crossover position before you rock the body forwards. Our 8th drill is single strokes to weight on the feet. This is a pause point in the recovery where you can actually get pressure onto the balls of your feet. For many people, it's somewhere between backstops and 1/4 slide. Some people find it a little closer to half slide. The point about the weight on your feet position being important is this is where your catch angle of your torso is set, your arms are extended, and it's the point at which you can start to deeply relax your legs during the recovery. This gives you a lot of rest so that you're not using your hamstrings to draw yourself forward. And this is where the feeling of moving with the boat on the recovery can be achieved. That is a topic for another whole podcast, which I'm not going to go into, but it's a very good drill for crews to do to see if they can all identify this point on the recovery and all get there at exactly the same time. And the last of our 9 core rowing drills is called double quick hands. From the finish, you move from the point of extraction of the blade to arms away as twice as fast as normal, so that it's a super quick movement. Then when you've got your arms straight, rocking the body forward and rolling up the slide is done at the normal speed. And it's quite a good way to help people follow on from the left hand lead exercise and sculling, but it also works in sweep. And with double quick hands, it helps to develop the smoothness of the handle, tap down and feather movement. So those things obviously are quite complex. And by practicing them twice as fast, it helps you to get more fluid in the normal rowing stroke at making that movement. Now, there are some variants that you can do on this. One of the favorites that we have is to make the double quick, not just your arms, your hands going double quick, but actually to make the double quick movement right round to weight on the feet, after which you can do your recovery at the normal speed. And a further variant is to go from double quick hands through to weight on the feet, but then do a double slow slide. So you've got two different sorts of exaggeration. So that concludes all of our 9 key essential drills. What's important about them? Do them regularly. Revisit them often. Do them in your single. Do them in your crew boats. Because when you have a gap in your rowing, or you are taking your focus onto other things, maybe, racing starts or shorter pieces, or you move to indoor rowing, all of these things mean that you're boat and blade handling skills get reduced. So the three key things that these drills are going to teach you, firstly, is how to handle the oars with skill. Secondly, is to recruit extra muscles into the power phase of the rowing stroke. And thirdly, it's how to move with the boat, particularly on the recovery, and sequencing your body correctly. Those things you gradually lose over time. You might recall, it's like riding a bike, people say, you never forget how to do it, but you do lose your fine motor skills really quite quickly, and you come off the catches first. That is the thing that you can coach back onto a crew in a week or 10 days before a big event. But that's the thing that you will lose first if you're not regularly practicing in the boat. So we've given you quite a few catches exercises, which you can, of course, try. But remember that all of these things take time to master. The single scull is the best for mastering power phase aspects of your sculling stroke, but you've got to already have good oar handling skills in order to be confident levering your body weight and to make good power. You may prefer to swap between a crew boat and a single scull, or a pair and a larger crew boat, to master the skills in these drills in a slightly more stable environment. So alternating outings between these will enable you to practice them and acquire the blade handling, boat movement skills in the bigger boat, and then try taking them into the smaller boat and see if you can execute them with similar power, skill, and finesse on the oar handles. This is our last podcast of 2023. Thank you all for sticking with us all year. Do send us any questions you have, any suggestions for guests for new podcasts, topics that you'd like us to talk about. I'm going to be taking a break over the Christmas and New Year period, and I will see you again in 2024. In the meantime, have a great break and keep listening.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your rowing friends about the show. And if you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.